Lean it in. You can lean in if you want. You don't have to. Hey, everybody. How's it going? This is the Dev Hangout for, what is today, the 13th of March?
Sell it. Really sell it, Oz.
Yeah. Well, I don't hardly ever get to do the intro stuff.
And now we know why.
Hungerford's usually sitting in this chair, and he just launches into it and starts rambling. And I kind of throw just disruptions at him to see what he can handle.
Now you're just throwing disruptions at yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. So, we are live on Twitch right now. Facebook is having some sort of meltdown. We're having trouble just posting on Facebook in general. I don't know if that's a global issue, like every single person in the world is bereft of Facebook right now or not. But we are live on Twitch. So if you have people out there that are already on social media asking why the stream hasn't started, tell them that it has.
And we just can't go live to Twitch. In fact, we couldn't even post to Twitch saying we are live.
Facebook.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what I.
yeah.
Yes,
Facebook. Facebook is broken.
Yes,
Twitch
sorry.
is
Twitch is great.
right
Hi, Twitch
now.
people. You're all fantastic.
Yeah. And
Facebook is borked, however.
Yeah.
Bork.
Yeah. So Hungerford is in Reno right now at the Gamma Trade Show, talking about new things coming out. They just had a slideshow presentation that some people saw on Facebook, but I don't know if it's still there.
Riot Quest,
because-
some
yeah.
Monpox,
Yeah.
some Oblivion.
We've got a couple of announcements to get to before we talk about things development related. The first thing is that the Seeker of Silence, the latest mini crate model,
The Silas Wishnarl alternate.
it is a Silas alternate. It is ending on March 19th. So if you want that model, get your order in before March 19th. And if you VIP subscribe before that, then that shipment will also have the Bride of Arcadius in it, because whenever you make a VIP subscription for that 6-month period, your next shipment has that model in it for free no matter when you do it. Like if you get the last model and you sign up for VIP, you still get that free model.
Yep.
So you have until the 19th, so you have a couple of days left on that. And then April 5th is the last day for, I'm going to try it. Hungerford always pronounces these names, and I'm not.
The thing I've noticed is all of you folks always just call them by their clan name. You always just say like Bayushi.
Sure. So Bayushi Shoju,
Yes.
which is a Scorpion Clan person.
It's a Scorpion Clan champion. Jesus.
Is he a champion or is he some sort of
Every
diplomat?
Clan,
He's barely got any weapons. He's not flailing around with a hammer or
No.
swords or anything. Anyway, the Legend of the Five Rings mini crate, which you can find both these things
Some of us know cool stuff. Bell5R here.
at mini-crate.com or mini-crate.com/L5R. But Bayushi is available until April 5th.
Bayushi showed you. Bayushi is just like saying
Bayu-
Scoot over is available.
Sure. It's the only model with that name so far. It's fine. It won't matter until we get to like the 5th Bayushi.
Sure.
Then it'll be confusing. So, also, lock and load tickets are available. You can go to pplockandload.com and buy tickets. Lock and Load is happening June 21st through the 23rd. You can come to Bellevue, hang out with us, play games with us, talk to us in our
Tournaments.
hangouts.
We're gonna have dev hangouts.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the Iron Arena.
You can do this kind of thing live. Wouldn't that be fun?
That's not a selling point.
I mean, trade the camera for like 30 people in a room that just get to ask questions about Monpoc or War Machine or whatever. Riot Quest. That kind of thing.
I maintain that's not a selling point right now.
Yeah.
But yes.
Okay.
Oh, hey, actually, here's a great question that just popped up from 2+ Tough. What is there to do at Lock and Load for a newbie? That's a great question, actually. We have a lot of stuff going on Lock and Load. If you go to pplockandload.com, you can actually check out our event schedule and sign up for things there. A couple of things we have going on that might be of interest to either yourself or other friends or people who are newer to the game. Obviously, we have tournaments. Those aren't generally something I would recommend for newbies, but I absolutely encourage people who are interested in the competitive scene to play in them, even if they are fresh to the game and they just want to kind of play some great, competitive games against people. For my money, the best place to spend time at Lock and Load if you're kind of fresh to the game is the Iron Arena. And basically the Iron Arena is we have a huge room. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the oven this year, by the way, for the people who were there last year.
The air conditioning broke in that
Yes,
other room.
so if you were there last year, you may
yeah.
have known that the Iron Arena was a little warm. I believe we're working on rectifying that year. In fact, it might just be in a different room for all I know.
Yeah, we might be rearranging things and ensuring that the air conditioning stays functional.
But anyways, the Iron Arena is basically, we have a room set up with just like a jillion tables. There's mats, there's terrain, there's all sorts of stuff, and you can just go and hang out with people, either bring your friends and play games against them, grab random people. It's open like 24 hours a day, basically.
Yeah.
People are just like in there at 3 a.m. jamming games.
Yeah, and it's like Chuck E. Cheese. When you play games, you get tickets, and you can trade tickets in for cool stuff. And I saw a question, I think on Facebook yesterday, people asking if Monpok was going to be part of Iron Arena, and it is.
That's a good question, yeah.
So you'll be able to play games of Monster Apocalypse in the Iron Arena, and also trade that in for tickets and things.
So like as we were mentioning at the Iron Arena, you'll actually, when you play a game, you go up to like a desk where we'll have like a staff member hanging out, and you can report your game, and win or lose, you like get some points and stuff, and you can then trade those in for like cool art prints, and we usually have like tokens and things like that. That's a really good opportunity for people to like hang out and play games.
Yeah, and there is a hobby lounge where you can talk to Jordan and Danny and those guys about tips and tricks for making
they'll
stuff.
sit there and you can paint with them.
You can just hang out and paint stuff. You can put together the stuff you just bought that's brand new. Like some of the Infernals.
You're always going to find people up there who like went down to the store and bought a bunch of new models and they're just building them so they can play games with them.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff for basically all walks of life as far as War Machine and Hordes and Monpok, and we'll probably have some Riot Quest stuff there, some demos and things like that as well. So,
and Dorian Clampett said I'm cool, so thanks Dorian for that. But also, I wasn't sick at last year's Lock and Load. I had a horrible allergy outbreak the weekend of Lock and Load, and I couldn't talk, and it was horrible.
Other than
hopefully
Lock and
that
Load,
won't happen this year. I'll just medicate heavily.
Adepticon coming up.
Yeah.
Adepticon's coming up at the end of March, and it'll be myself, you, Hungerford, Swankles. I believe Jordan's going to be there. We'll be vending. We'll be running events.
Yep.
So come and see me specifically.
Yeah. And there will be a narrative War Machine event and a narrative Monpok event and a Company of Iron event, which I'm prepping models for right now, so it's a new thing we haven't done before.
Yep.
We did a Company of Iron narrative event last year and at Lock and Load, but this is a brand new scenario that people haven't played.
And Travis will be there at Lock
Travis
and Load.
will be there. Keep Travis up,
And then probably the last little bit of announcements, I think, off the top of my head, is the Infernal CID will be ending March 25th. So we got like some days. What's the date? Yeah.
Today.
12 days,
Can't
2
you
weeks,
see it
basically.
over the top of it? It's the 13th.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And the last thing we should talk about is the schedule for our live streams. So you
yeah.
are watching the Dev Hangout right now, which we do every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We also do Get Your Paint On, which is Jordan painting a model and talking to somebody who's not on camera.
That's gonna be me
about
tomorrow.
About background stuff.
Right?
Yeah. And that happens on Thursdays at 10 a.m. And once a month we do a Primecast Live, which is our variety show where we bring in everybody from different departments and we just talk about stuff. And that happens on a rotating schedule. The next one for that is going to be March 22nd. And then we also have started back up games of us playing. We're calling it Staff Showdown now. And we're doing it at least one time a month, but we haven't determined the next date yet. So soon you'll find out when the next Staff Showdown is and what games we're going to play and that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll announce that next Wednesday.
Sure. I believe you.
So, I believe that's all the announcements, everything we got to talk about.
Cool. Let's get to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of go over some of the changes we made just the other day, talk about those briefly, maybe answer some questions, and then we're going to talk about our plan to update this week. And then we're going to probably, even though we don't have anything set in stone, we're going to discuss a couple of the things that we as a team have been discussing that you may see or may not see in those updates, but it's like, what direction we're taking and where we're kind of going with the Infernal CID.
Yeah, and if you haven't signed up for CID yet, you can go to cid.privateerpress.com and sign up. You don't automatically get in. We have to screen everybody because it is a process of letting only certain people in. And mostly, we don't let you in if you have a horribly offensive name.
Basically, every morning when I come in, I check and I add everyone, and I always do a screening to see if anyone's got poopy butt in their name.
Or worse.
Yes, that's the bare minimum.
Okay, so we did an update.
You're a dad, Tony. This is like exactly what your kids say. He's like laughing over there. This is exactly what your kids say every day, I'm sure.
Sometimes
probably the funniest thing ever.
Sometimes they find label makers and make words and put them on each other's faces. That happened, yeah.
All right.
I follow Tony on the social medias. I know how it works.
So the other day, we put out an update that saw some pretty significant changes to the summoning mechanics, and then some other sort of subtle changes that kind of have a greater impact on the faction. The big one is that summoning used to be any point during your Infernal Master's activation. Now they do it during the control phase. Sorry, I got my phases mixed up for a second. They do it during the control phase after they've replenished their essence and all that kind of stuff. That means that you don't have like weird thread extension. This is particularly relevant with like a Modemos or Omodemos, whatever your preference is there. So now you have to make a little bit more decisions on, instead of a moment from when you're activating and like choosing what you're going to put into play, you have to kind of like preload your decision, as it were.
And we've seen a lot of comments about counterplay for that. Some people want to move it to beginning of the master's activation because they're afraid that their master might get surrounded and there might not be a place to put a model unless they can clear it off. But also, if your master's surrounded by your enemy's models, then maybe they just got attacked a whole bunch too. So
it might be a whole different problem.
So we're looking at that and keeping track of how things are working. But right now, we want to keep it in the control phase, just so it happens as part of those steps, and you don't have to worry about exactly when you're going to do it during your turn.
Cultists, we increased their point cost a little bit from 5.7 to 6.8. And then probably more notably is we put an FA limit on them. Now they are FA3 as opposed to FAU.
FA all.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
U does not stand for all.
Yeah. No more. I saw a battle report or a comment somewhere about someone running 52 cultists in an army.
Yeah, and there's a couple concerns with it. One was like a weird. We kind of killed it when we took direct spirits off of Roger, but the idea of like you could just run a whole swarm of cultists. Really, what it comes down to is this is an attempt to sort of dial in the essence economy. Some of the concerns that have been coming out is the fact that you can just take some cultists, you can stick them on your back line, and you never actually have to worry about your cultists being in a position of danger. By reducing their FA to 3, it kind of puts them a little bit more into perspective that you can still use them as a unit, but you're not probably less likely to just buy units because you can put other ones out there on the table somewhere and just have them sit there and be an essence battery. This can still change it. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's going to go up or down, but if we feel that that's a dial that needs to be tweaked.
We are looking at the cultists still because they are kind of the core of that essence economy. Because as long as you have cultists in play, you can cheaply refill your essence. You don't have to do it by killing somebody important in your army. You can just kill one of your cultists. So we want to make sure that that's not too easy and that still forces people to make decisions and there's counterplay and all that kind of stuff.
This is probably not the last place we necessarily end with cultists. They're still very high on our priority list of things to keep an eye on because they are such a heart of the army. We do want to make you feel like you're using them and like that you get to do something with them and they're not just 5 bros who are sitting on your deployment line being eaten for essence. So where we end up with that, I don't necessarily know. There's been some things bandied about. Some common community feedback has been like, well, what if the Empower style ability was base to base instead of ranged, for example? It's changes like that are changes that we're putting on our list of things to review and talk about.
We wanted to start with a small change, which is increasing their cost and dropping down the number of them you can have on the table. And then we're still considering if they need to be toned further, which it's things like Jeff was just talking about that we're looking at.
Other suggestions, like if, for example, the Ritual Shadows going base to base, other suggestions we've seen commonly are like maybe it's on the leader, maybe only the Dark Sentinels get it, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of suggestions and lots of feedback on it. We are definitely listening. We definitely have a list of things that we are discussing internally and reviewing. So it's all great feedback, and we definitely appreciate the people providing some of that input. Let's see. Umbral Guardians got a little bit of a change. Their ability to jump into the game was not limited to the type of models it could jump off of. What this meant is we were seeing situations both internally and a little bit of feedback from the community where you would take a ranged attack from an enemy, you would pop in your Umbral Guardian, you would then trigger the next one and you move forward, and then you trigger the next one and go forward further. Then you would chain the shield guards back to the first one so that the furthest out one was undamaged. And then now you have like this POW 11 Mat 7 Weapon Master person way down the table.
Yeah.
We're not super necessarily thrilled on where this has landed up because it's changed to non-soulless, which basically means you cannot trigger her off of themselves or the Infernal Infantry and the Infernal Horrors.
Yeah.
So you can still trigger them off of all of like the living peeps, your master, and so forth. However, this has turned a very powerful, very expensive model into something that's a lot harder to get onto the board. So we're definitely got that on our minds as well. Maybe it becomes non-umbral or who knows, or maybe just the whole Shadow Guardian thing changes on how it can jump in. Maybe it can't trigger off itself. There's lots of ways, again, lots of dials we can turn here. Again, this is something we're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it was never intended for these things to chain in a weird way.
Yes.
And this is a reversion back to a thing we had been testing a while.
Yeah, for a long time
because
they were like...
thematically, these things are attached to people who have sold their souls.
It's like hiding their shadow, right?
Yeah. So this is more like where it started, and we wanted to dial it back to there to see if we could find a safer spot for it. So maybe it'll get a little better, or maybe it'll change in a different way, but this is the spot it's at right now.
Yeah. Mordecai got some like small targeting tweaks.
Yeah.
Now Mordecai is basically, as far as I'm concerned, like top of my hit list of models that we are going to heavily review and make changes to. The biggest piece of that puzzle initially, however, was the fact that his insidious plans didn't require any form of targeting. So he could just be like behind a house and be like, you people can't give orders for no particular reason.
Yeah, and his command range is 10, so he had a big impact on the table, and he could hide behind whatever.
This is a good example. This is the guy that we are definitely is like topping at least my list, and also just our conversation. Definitely expect to see further changes, heavy changes to this model in some capacity.
Yeah, it's the thing we're discussing a lot, but we haven't pared
Settled.
down all of our things. And more than likely, the text of that ability, what we got on the screen right now is the original text. So all those chooses just turn to target to make it simpler. That's probably not the final version of that wording. It was just an easy way to change it into that so that the ideas could get across.
Yeah, and just for clarity, we've been like showing off like the concept art and the rules. Those are just the initial ones, just for the sake of having a visual breakup. But those do not reflect the rules that are currently in test. So don't sweat the details. You're not seeing something that's super secret or weird. It's just this is what we had to. Tony conveniently had. So don't sweat the.
And there's a good question from Should Have Turned Left. We do want feedback based on games you've played. We don't want a bunch of theory and stuff based on changes that might be coming and that kind of stuff. But if you give us feedback on a game you've played, that gives us information about how to change things or what could possibly have been different. So always give us feedback based on what you've experienced. Whether it's a little bit old or not, that's fine. Because we still want all the other feedback from all the other models too. Yeah,
for sure. And then last but not least, Valen's horse didn't have a melee range.
Yeah, that was just a typo. That was just...
No, it was real.
It had a POW, so it had to have a weapon range. So yeah.
It could have been infinite range. We don't know. What if he just like impact the table?
Yeah.
So that's sort of some of the changes. I think it's worth mentioning like that while these were relatively minor changes, it wasn't because we don't think that the faction doesn't require some pretty significant alterations to what was been delivered.
Yeah.
We just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with the change to the control phase for summoning, and that was a good place to start kind of afresh in a way. And so now that we've gotten several days of feedback on that, now we can start touching other aspects of the faction. So with that in mind, as for an update, it is possible there will be an update today. It is perhaps more likely that there'll be an update tomorrow. So basically, we are working on an update, and you could maybe happen today, probably more likely tomorrow sometime early afternoon-ish, probably.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. We are actively working on it. We are actively reviewing and discussing these models internally and playing games with them. So expect something, but maybe today, but maybe not today.
Yeah.
Tempering expectations.
Yeah.
As for things that we're kind of like working on, again, these are not final. These aren't even like set in stone. They're not even necessarily in the database. These are just some of the ideas we're working with, and we kind of wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit. Some of the things that we are pretty confident that we're going to be kind of looking into is some of the ideas we're bouncing around are Regna, Princess Regna Gravnoy, or Great Princess.
Great Princess. Gravnoy.
We are looking at making it so she can only have a single horror in her battle group. So
basically one live at a time.
Correct.
Not summon only once during the game, but only one active.
Yeah. So some of the things we've talked about is like, does she have to start the game with a horror, for example, like other similar journeyman warcasters or warlocks? That's a concept we've bandied around as well. Probably the one that we're kind of leaning the most heavily towards at the moment is that she can only have one active. So she doesn't have to start with one, though that might also be a possibility. But that she can only have one active. And again, it would still be a lesser or light horror. So she could summon a Lamenter, she could summon a Shrieker, she could summon a Forebodar, and then once it dies, she could summon another one, but she can't summon another one until it's gone.
Yeah.
The reason I kind of like this change is right now she kind of feels like a Shrieker bot.
Yeah.
She's just summoning Shriekers, and Shriekers are shooting things. I think that if you make it so she can only have a single horror in her battle group, I think that it means that the Lamenter might have a little more value with her because she can throw it out there and it can dive in and try and kill things, and then it gets, peace trades effectively, and then it dies, and then she can summon whatever the next situation calls for. Or she could just summon a Shrieker, maintain it, and now she actually gets to use some of her spells potentially, like Wind Wall, which is not seen a ton of play, to be entirely honest, because you can just summon a Shrieker every turn. So that is a change that we're looking into for Regna. That is definitely one of the things. And again, these are not locked in. These are not happening for sure. But these are kind of us pulling back the curtain a little bit and talking about some of the things that are very likely possibly going to happen, but might not necessarily.
And like we've said, and there was a question in here, don't test theory. Don't be like, I tested that idea you said on the stream might happen. I love it. It's great. Do it.
Or alternatively, post a battle report saying, oh, Jeff and Oz said all this stuff, and I didn't like these changes, and they were no good for this reason, when it might actually not be the change that happens at all.
Yeah.
So please use the rules that are provided. We're just kind of talking about what we might see in the update.
This is just directions our brains are going.
Yeah. Obviously, we have a lot of Mordecai stuff we're looking into. A couple of things that we've been talking about is moving around some of his little abilities a bit. For example, Tactician was actually originally back in the Dizzy, was on Valen. So we've talked about actually moving
it was on the Knight originally.
Back to Valen. Obviously, that might also see some changes because right now it's just like Tactician, the faction. Maybe it becomes Tactician Infernal. Maybe it becomes that's his faction. Sorry. What I meant to say is Tactician Warrior or Tactician Mark Soul or Tactician Infernal Infantry. I don't know. Right? There's a lot of ways we can dial that. We can touch that and play buttons with there. But those are some of the things we're talking about: is moving some of his abilities around. The idea of moving intelligence to Keziah Brand. Kezia has also been discussed.
Yeah.
We're giving her a little bit more value. Obviously, we're going to probably be looking at his Insidious plans. I keep wanting to say orders, but they're like opposite orders.
Yeah, they're negative
his
orders.
Insidious plans.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at some of those. For my money, I think I would personally like to see Curse get affected. But right now, all three of them are just like ridiculously powerful. So we're definitely fiddling with them. So be aware that he is on the hit list, as it were, because he is doing a lot of work. We see like a lot of battle reports for Omodemos. I did a count yesterday, and at that point we were at like 62-ish battle reports. and like 38 of them were Omodemos, and like 7 were Agathon or something like that, and then like 11 Zadaroth. So we've got a lot of feedback for Omodemos. Please keep playtesting him, but, if the community could focus a little bit on Zataroth and Agathon, it would be greatly appreciated. Omodemos is extremely powerful. We have a couple ways we know we probably want to touch him. We are definitely looking at his feet. We are definitely looking at locked horns. I wouldn't expect to see his spell list change much. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, Vengeful, I don't get to use it. No, I never get to use Breath of Corruption. Remember, not every spell has to be usable 100% of the time. A lot of the times, every Warlock, Warcaster, and Master in the game typically has some kind of generic, somewhat sometimes useful nuke. Do you use it 1 in 10 games? Maybe you don't even use it that often, but it still needs to be there for both thematic reasons, for the situation where maybe it saves you the game in those odd situations. And the alternative is not to just take it away and replace it with a better spell. The alternative is it's that spell, or maybe there's just nothing there at all.
Yeah.
Same with Vengeful. Vengeful doesn't need to be a spell that you use every game. And people want to see it change to something that I do use it. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for every single spell to be used every single turn, every single game on every single caster. It is okay for casters to have spells that are much more niche or corner case or less valuable. And when people say, well, can't we take this spell off and replace it with Mortality? It's like, or we could just take it off and not replace it with anything as an option.
Yeah,
So
almost every caster wants to have that zap that they can do from a distance to remove an important piece because of a charge lane or whatever. So even if it's not the most optimal attack spell, then they're probably going to have it because they're not going to use it often, but they're going to need it situationally.
So yes, Omodemos, we're definitely keeping an eye on his feet. We're definitely keeping an eye on locked horns. But we have received an inordinate amount of feedback and playtest reports on Omodemos. So please keep playtesting him, obviously. But if you are sitting there looking at like, ooh, I could playtest Omodemos or I could playtest Agathon tonight, for example, it would be great if you could provide some more reports on Agathon and Zataroth, for sure. Then on the subject of the Agathon, we definitely got a lot of what playtest feedback we've got on Agathon has been pretty aggressively focused. Definitely keeping an eye on its spell list and its feat. Same with Zadaroth. Some of the things we're talking about is, quick, Tony, I actually need you to pull up Zadaroth's rule card. Shadowgate. We're about to find out in like
Shadowgate is her version of the Soulgate spell.
Yeah. Okay. Shadowgate. I'm gonna wait for it. Yep. Cool. Shadowgate is a spell that we are potentially reviewing for removal in exchange for something a little bit more impactful.
Yeah, it's on there. It's Shadowgate.
Yep. No spoilers on what that is yet, but we are definitely looking at some alternatives. I think that's kind of the spell that we like the idea of it, but we just don't really feel like it's coming together on the table. And so that's probably a spell we're looking at reviewing and making some changes to, and probably potentially replacing it with something to kind of reinforce her role a little bit harder, for sure.
Yeah, and we understand that Omodemos is the most straightforward model to play. Somebody in the comments was even like, it's the only one I understand how to play. But we would like you to try the other ones and give us feedback about if they're difficult to play with or if there's stumbling problems in them and that kind of stuff. Because that's important feedback too. If one of the models is just really straightforward and the other ones are kind of impossible to wrap your head around, then we don't want those kind of models to be the only other options, because then fewer people will play them and fewer people will have fun with them and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now that we've got summoning to the control phase, I think we feel like we're at a pretty good spot for summoning as a concept, like how it happens on the table. Now we're definitely getting to the point internally and from all of your wonderful feedback on how do we tune summoning so that we're not getting to these situations where you are ending the game with 100 more points than you started the game with.
Yeah.
So we are definitely looking at some solutions there. We've gotten a lot of feedback on things like reducing their horror, the Master's horror points, some review of the overall stats of the horrors to make them, have a less potent stat line, for example, so they're easy to remove, so they have less total impact. Even though the fact you might be playing points up in theory, the value of the models is much lower, for example.
Yeah.
So we are definitely, believe me, we hear everyone loud and clear on that.
That's all an ongoing discussion that we're not even going to hint at because the possibilities are a bunch of different directions, and we don't want to pick one to talk about that might not ever actually materialize.
Yeah.
So
we're definitely working on that as well. Believe you me, that we are deep in discussion on how best to address the summoning and the kind of value of summoning going forward. There's been a lot of ideas bandied around. There's been a lot of armchair design from the community, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to happen on ideas. We are taking a lot of those ideas. We're taking our own ideas, and I'm sure we're going to find a great place in the middle where everything kind of comes up all bright and shiny and awesome.
But all that said, please give us your feedback primarily as battle reports and the survey on the forums at cid.privateerpress.com.
Yep.
If you make theory and list building comments, that's a great place to discuss like figuring out how a model works or throwing out ideas for what if summoning worked this way or what if points cost were that way. But we don't read every single one of those threads and every single one of those posts, and we don't value that feedback as strongly as we value the feedback of, I played the game with the model, and this is how I experienced it. Because like we said when we first introduced all this stuff, hot takes are not the way to understand Infernals.
Yeah.
Playing with Infernals on the table is the way to understand the faction. So please give us your feedback
Excuse me.
through a battle report, and if you have time, also go to the survey and check a couple of those boxes and give us some little feedback. Because that's a really, really good place to find people's thoughts about a particular model without having to read through a whole bunch of prose about how a game went.
With regards to the feedback form, I know that I've been informed that there is a logic problem with like trying to give feedback on I think it's like Mordecai and Kezia, and it takes you elsewhere. I'm working on that. I'll probably have that updated today. I'll probably just have a separate week 2 feedback form set up, and hopefully I'll have the logic fixed so that it's not dumb. Thank you for pointing that out to me. When a horror cannot pay tithe, says the Dragon Prop in Twitch, does it drop over dead or does it get ripped back through dimensions? I think it gets ripped back through dimensions.
It vanishes.
Yeah.
It poofs.
I agree.
They're made of
If
some
it died, it
sort
would
of
leave like a corpse.
Yeah, they're made of some sort of like protoplasm.
The official term is soul goo.
Soul goo.
Yeah, this has been canonically established.
Sure, but they just kind of evaporate. Like
Do they leave like a nice smell?
It's
after
not
that?
a nice smell.
No,
it's the worst. It's the worst of all smells. But yeah, they just kind of like Infinity War out. I think like, whoof, and they're gone.
Oh, like they turn to like dust
and then they cry about it, and they're real sad, and they're like,
going.
no, don't let me go.
Other things we're working. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other things we're kind of looking at is like Valen. He's got the Long Shadows and the Brother's Keeper. Keeping a close eye on those, the ranges on them, if those need to be adjusted at all. By the way, to address a quick question from Cobalt Pyramid, so no corpse tokens. Correct, they are RFP'd before they get destroyed.
They're removed
so
from play.
They do not get
so they
to
don't do
generate
anything.
Good question, though. It's actually very relevant.
Yeah.
Regna, Valen, Mordecai, Kezia, whatever you want to pronounce her name.
Brand. You
Sure.
just say Brand.
Okay.
That's that model's last name.
We were definitely keeping an eye on her. We want her to be impactful. Right now, she's very middle of the roady, kind of, There's a lot of super solos in the faction, and she's like the least super solo.
Well, that's why earlier you were talking about possibly some of Mordecai's abilities for support get spread out. And Brand is one of the models we're looking at to possibly put something like that on.
Some other good feedback has been on Faustus, the attachment for the cultists. Quintus Faustus. He's definitely got a suite of abilities, but it's kind of hard to get them delivered. In terms of like actually getting souls on him reliably, being able to he's a 4-point bro who just might kind of die. So we're definitely kind of looking into what we want him to be doing for the unit, and making sure that he gets that done.
Yeah.
Are horrors gluten-free?
Totally. I think we're getting to the point in the stream where the questions have turned into weird things.
But you are an advocate.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah.
That's how we start to wrap it all up and tie all the loose
But anyways,
ends.
the moral of the story is no update this second, but you should expect an update either later today or sometime tomorrow. That update will probably address a lot of the kind of big hit list models, specifically Mordecai, Omodemos, hopefully
Regna.
some changes to the other masters like Agathon and Zadaroth. Regna. Again, some of the things we're looking at but are not confirmed, so please don't post to Facebook immediately saying this is exactly what Jeff said and it's exactly what's going to happen, which I know you're going to do now, by the way, thanks, Regna thinking about maybe either making it so she has to start with a horror and play, or that she can only summon and control one at a time.
Yep.
Mordecai, we're talking about distributing his abilities around and then also giving him a change to his insidious plans. We got an eye on Valen and the ranges of his abilities. We're definitely looking at Omodemos, and we're definitely considering the soul economy, not soul economy, the essence economy, and horrors. So some things that have been banging around is right now the masters all have 28 horror points. Well, what if they had 20? What if they had 15? What if they had 10? What if they had 0? These are all things we're considering. These are all some things that you could see some iteration of it when we drop the update. When can we start pre-ordering Infernals? I don't know.
So release dates are controlled by other departments.
Yep.
And solicitations happen a couple of months early. Like you just saw May solicitations, I believe, and June solicitations just came out a couple days ago. So Captain O'Hara was in those solicitations and that kind of stuff. So we solicit a couple of months out to show you when things are going to release. Often things pre-release at conventions, so Infernals will be available in some capacity at Lock and Load, even if that's before their release date.
Yep.
But if you pay attention to the Facebook groups and stuff, because people always post those solicitation images really quickly, then you can see what month the models are releasing in.
Yep.
And we don't ever talk about when they might be releasing, because that stuff shifts around. Because this model isn't coming out of the molds as easy, and that model is becoming different, and that kind of thing happened with the Supreme Guardian and the Trident and those kind of things. So we never talk about release dates.
Yep. Dorian had a question about what if this or that about Ritual of Shadows changed. Again, we kind of talked to Chad about it briefly. We are definitely looking at the essence economy. We're definitely looking at cultists and their impact with that essence economy.
Yeah.
And we will almost certainly see some changes to how they influence that. What those changes are, we're not prepared to tell you this moment.
We've talked about almost every option.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of choice things like, what if it was base to base? What if they had to sacrifice themselves to do it? What if it was only on the leader? What if it was only on Dark Sentinels?
What if it was D3? What if it was...
Yeah, all sorts of things.
All kinds of stuff,
those are all things. They're all great suggestions. We definitely have a long list of them we're looking at. Those are some things that might be coming here very soon. And again, we hope to have an update out to you at the very latest sometime tomorrow.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we got for you today. Just kind of talking about some of the changes we made and some of the changes we're looking forward to. Horror give corpse or no? Horrors do give corpses if you do kill them.
Yeah. They are living soulless models.
Yes. Now, if they disappear as a result of tithing or other effects, then no, they don't give a corpse. But if an ironclad walks up and bops a horror with his big hamhar, then yes, they do in fact.
I'm confused.
They do in fact drop a corpse. So anyways, with that said, it is time for us to get back to the grind because, believe you me, I have a lot of things to read and we have a lot of cool changes to make.
Yeah. So like always, you can join us here 10 a.m. Wednesdays for a dev hangout where we talk about CID or other stuff. You can also watch Jordan paint something on Get Your Paint On Thursdays at 10 a.m. And then once a month, we do 2 different shows. One is the Staff Showdown, which we are going to figure out the dates for the next one of those. We just played Monster Apocalypse. Hungerford and I just played it on a Friday recently. And then Primecast Live, let's talk to anybody and everybody from the company about what's going on. That next episode will be March 22nd at 10 a.m. So all of our shows start at 10 a.m. Yeah, this is the 13th and it's a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah,
so
it's
it
on
won't
Friday.
be it won't be this Friday, but it'll be Friday next week.
Is it Jimmy Jam's time?
Never.
I mean, I guess there's no hunger for it. He's
Never.
a gamma.
Yeah, yeah. He might be eating
Yep.
all kinds of sandwiches.
Thank you, everyone,
Gamma.
for joining us today.
Yep.
I know we didn't have like a ton, of like cool stuff, but again,
Yeah.
it's all coming. It just didn't kind of line up with a stream schedule. So,
Yeah.
thank you again. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful time. Thank you for participating in the CID. Again, go join us at cid.privateerpress.com, and then join us tomorrow, and me and Jordan and Tony for Get Your Paint On. Bye. I love you
Bye.
all. Corgis.
Tony fades us out slowly as I mumble random things.
Corgis.
Not corgis. No.
I watched a great Corgi movie.
You always